Alright. Well, I guess everything's going alright this morning here in Texas. How about up there in Ohio?
Oh, pretty good. It's just hot. It's getting you. Imagine how hot it is there.
Oh yeah, 100-degree days already. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and start. Since this is recorded, I think that what we might do is we might partly discuss and go over things that we have before, like when we were on the internet radio show. But I guess we'll start with. I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about something that's kind of current and that's been on our minds recently, and that is information about Guy Jones. What do you know about Guy Jones? Where did he come from, and how did you become aware of Guy Jones?
There's a good one. Guy Jones comes from South Dakota. He's Sioux out to South Dakota, Okalaka.
He's from the Oglala Nation?
Yeah, he's Okalaka.
Okay.
He first come in to Ohio probably about 20 years ago. He basically started getting involved basically, who knows why or why he did what he did. I've got my reasoning. We had meetings. First time I met him was meetings with the state of Ohio. There were state tribes meeting with the governor's office at the time. And there was consideration of the Indian Commission. Guy was saying that basically at that time that he was representing the Indian centers. So the meetings actually went quite well at first. They were discussing how the Indian Commission was going to be formed and what was the goal of the Indian Commission and who could sit on the commission, and those meetings went quite well at first, and then they took it upon themselves, Guy and his few that he had with him at the time, to change the rules. They wanted us, the people who sat on the commission, our point was, at the time, was that each tribe had a representative on the commission. So, that was all agreed upon, and things were agreed upon. It was working great, and then if you come to a sticking point, we had a sticking point was when the commission was to make a decision. There would be a vote amongst the tribal representatives. And they took it upon themselves to change, to say anyone who sits on the commission, only the unquote, the federally recognized Indians could only their vote counted. We could sit on the commission, we could go over issues, and we could go over things, but our vote did not count when it comes down to how everything was to be aimed. So the state tribes at the time had a lot of older people that were there that had been around for quite some time. Jim Perry was a Picklecep. You had Oliver Collins, quite a few, even the same Hawk Pope from the URB. But the state tries to, look, why should we sit on anything that we don't have
a vote on? It's ridiculous, and it was to sabotage the whole thing. And that was his great beginning, and so his main beef is that he believes more in the power of federal tribes, and that everyone else should acquiesce to what they want to happen.
Well, it's basically not what, and I've come, to over the years dealing with him. It's not about togetherness or what Indian people want. It's what Guy Jones wants. He talks a good talk like togetherness, to work together, to do this, but no, it's an all right deceit, and for his own means. It's all self-worth and all his own means. And over the years, he has really attacked the state tribes anytime that meetings is called, or with the state tribes, and it's not just, it's a lot of the state tribes that they've outright attacked them to depress the state tribes, because it's not about what we can do for Indian people, it's about what we can line our pockets with. And in their case, they feel like if anything's done with the state tribes, that they lose some type of control in money. They were into everything. They had 501c3. They were taking, they were getting monies for just practically anything. Once they even got a $27,000 grant to put up from the Ohio Historical Society to put up a sweat lodge. And it's about lining their own pocket. And I've come, to know.
Sounds awfully close to paying for ceremony, huh?
Yeah, you don't do stuff like that. They've done a lot of stuff. Everybody talks about how great those people are. If you stop and ask them, go ahead, Scott.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask real quick, is he the type that goes around saying peace, 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 but then lobbing off these attacks?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We all need to work together. No, what they want you to do is work with them. Their point is, if you don't come, do what we want you to do, then you're a non-Indian. You're the old cuss word we call it, I wannabe. They don't go by, our people, we go by where we come from. We know where we come from. We know what our ancestry is. There's a difference, but they use excuses, multi-excuses, and over the years, it's just exactly, it's the same old story when they come in to do talk, especially it's always the same old rigmarole, as we say. But the key is, if those people are so great, and he really cares about the Indian community and so forth, you would be able to see it, but it's not that way. Guy, if he's that good, how come that he's not helping his own people? You see the atrocities all the time about lining the pockets. You know, they went so far as to doing all kinds of stuff. You know, look, I don't drive around a Cadillac. You know, Guy Jones does. It's about lining their own pockets. And when people see stuff like that, and they, you know, and after all the years that I've seen what the stuff that they've done, it's an atrocity for, you know, to watch them done as what they've done.
Has Guy Jones always been associated with the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio?
No, that's something that's come up later. You know, you have a major of it used to be 3 or 4. You used to have at least 4 Indian centers here. You had one in Marietta, Ohio. You had one in Cleveland, one in Toledo, and one in Wilmington, Ohio. Now, the one in Wilmington, Ohio, it closed down in, I think, 1990. No, he's always been involved with, you know, the Indian centers. You know, the main one is in, like, Columbus. That seems to be a central point. And, of course, the Cleveland Indian Center's been there for quite some time. And they've had their little sticky hands into everything. And one of the worst things that he did was his co-person, which is Kenny Irwin. You know, they actually took bodies from our state, our homeland, our people, and take them out of state and rebury them. That's, you know, they took kickbacks from construction companies to get, you know, anytime a construction company would hit burials, done a lot of nasty.
That's grave robbing.
No, to them, you know, oh, we're doing the proper thing and we're reburying them, and you know, and finally, after years of protesting and really giving them a hard time, you know, there are designated reburial. You know, the Native American Alliance has done reburial, and there is a designated area to be reburied. So that's all ongoing fight. But these guys are doing this.
Oliver Collins was instrumental in helping to get that pushed through, right?
Yes, Oliver Collins, Barbara Crandall, a lot of the years ago, Jim Perry.
Do you think that that's why there's been such animosity and hatred towards Oliver Collins, because he stood up to Guy Jones?
Yes, oh, absolutely. I mean, he's actually, you know, took a lot of abuse, as well as we all have. Mm-hmm. Anytime you stand up for what you believe in, and it's all about, to them, it's all about control. It's all about, to them, a lot of it is control, but it's also, you know, you cut into their money
scheme,
and what they can, you know, that we're the real Indian. That way, it's all about, you know, they used to accuse us of trying to get casino to gambling, but you know, here he is now back in here promoting that this used to be Sioux territory and to try to get a foothold in the casino stuff. So, you know, it's all been a shame.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is that we do have these connections with the Lakota, and Ohio is the ancient homeland for all Sioux-speaking tribes, but the Oglala Nation and the other tribes that are, in and around the Pine Ridge Rosebud area were never historically documented as being in the Ohio area. I'm talking about historic times, not ancient times. So it's interesting that someone from the Oglala Nation would come into Ohio and say that they have some kind of precedent over Ohio when our people, the Yesa, the Saponi, and the Tutelo and Massapalea were there historically documented by at least the French, Spanish, and English governments.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there has never been a Sioux village in the state of Ohio. As you know, the Sioux Nation...
You're talking about, there's never been a Lakota village.
There's never been a Lakota village, ever. Has there been a Saponi village? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Documented. I mean, has there been a Massapalea? Yes, absolutely. It's been documented. It's about pressing them, if they're so, and they're here, so if there's, why aren't they helping their people? Because this ain't about helping the people, it's about helping themselves.
Yes, and if they...
Trust me, we keep fighting and we keep moving on. That's what we do.
Is it true that Guy Jones would go around to people who are organizing powwows and try to get some type of fee, or if the people organizing a particular powwow were not going along with what Guy Jones wanted them to do, then he would somehow interfere with their powwow?
He's done a lot of crappy stuff over the years. Basically, if they did not have their hands in the powwow, they basically wouldn't put it on. He wasn't to put it on. If he did put one on, he's done some nasty things. He's walked right into a drum and laid feathers down on the drum to stop it. They've once so to do some criminal things is to break people's windows in the parking lot. I mean, they basically have had their hand in about every powwow at one time, all over the state. I had a argument with. It wasn't an argument; it was a discussion with a Shawnee leader named Logan Sharp. He's now he's the Churn Creek Shawnee. He was once part of the Pickwa. They do, or was putting had put a powwow on for years in Chillicothe. But, they basically, I said, I try to put this, I can just tell you what, he brought up in a meeting about Guy Jones and whatnot, and we ought to go, but I don't feel the need, I told him. You may feel the need, they have to kiss their ass to keep from getting trouble with Guy Jones' faction, which used to be the Miami Council for Native Americans. And I basically, I said, if you feel the need to kiss their ass to put your powwow on in your own country, in your own land, that's your business. If that's what you want to do, Mr. Logan Sharp. And I said, I've known you for how long? And he said, many years. And I said, you ever know me till high? He said, no. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, if you feel the need to kiss their ass, that's your problem, to put your powwow on. I don't feel the need to go to them for nothing, especially of what they have done to the people, the Indian people of this state, the state tribes. It's an atrocity. But they basically had their hand into every powwow. It was about making their own money, their own shame. And it keeps going. They say, they con people into, they use them, if you're Native American, you need to be with us, if that's who you are. And then, we know the right way to do something, or the assumed, they've done that for years, and they basically use people until they can't do it anymore, and then they kind of toss them aside.
It sounds a lot like the type of tactics that are used on social networking boards that David Cornsilk is involved in Task Force Cherokee, and the NAFPS, which is Native American Frauds and Plastic Shaman. It sounds like these same exact tactics where they go around attacking people in the powwow circuit or online. They attack people's heritage if they're not a member of a federally recognized tribe. And if you are a member of a federally recognized tribe and you stand up to these people, they will try to dig up dirt and trash on you and discredit you and say you're not a real Indian or say you're a thin blood in order to try to manipulate public opinion against those who do not comply with their wishes and what they want.
Absolutely.
So you would say that Guy Jones pretty much is the same way?
Oh, yes, and the people who are around him. There's a big example of that. Any time that a federally recognized tribe would help the state tribes, they would outright attack that person. I'll give an example. In 1994, the state tribes got together in 94 to try to work together. We can, for some odd reason, who knows why, old animosities, old tribal rivals, old tribal things that happen, but we can only band together for a certain amount of time. And at the time, the Iroquois, especially the Seneca in New York, were basically helping the state tribe. They were basically with political support, and that was led by one of the traditional Senecas, Fred Kennedy. His family, in fact, still holds the title for the nation. They were helping. And I'll give you an example. We bring up another person who has worked diligently with Guy Jones in the Miami Council and being really disgusting. And her name's Kay Jimerson. She was once married to a Jay Jimerson, who were Oneida and Seneca. He left her many years ago. Right at 25 years ago, or less, maybe 22, 23 years ago. But to give you an example, she worked for a state agency, a state government office. There were meetings with the Seneca and the other Iroquois. They basically, she took a letter from the state government agency and really nasty letter against Fred Kennedy. It was terrible. That she portrayed it as the state agency that she worked for, state government agency that she worked for, was basically calling just all kinds of fraud, using that agency to say that they don't have any rights, don't come back, and so forth. After investigation, a
to really how dirty these people can really be. After investigation of the letter, state agency was called on a conference call because the person who the letter was stamped with his signature was the head of that agency, and it was brought to his attention, and he was not aware of any such letter. He was not even aware.
That sounds similar to the Seaman. That sounds similar to the situation that happened at the Seaman Center with Parnell Necklace.
Yeah. So after investigating, the letter was faxed to him, and someone had taken the company, the state agency letterhead, wrote this very nasty going. He said, "This is not our policy." He said, "I did not put this letter out. I will find out who did." And I told him, I said, "I can tell you exactly where it came from." I said, "Do you have a Kay Jimerson working in your employment?" "Well, yes, I do." She's the one that put the letter. She misused company letterhead. She misused the state agency office. She was terminated from that position. And since then, she's even gotten worse. Anything that she can do, especially to myself, because I'm the one that brought it to their attention. Fred Kennedy is a close friend of mine and his family. I'm the one, we brought it to their attention, and she was terminated for it, misuse.
And tell me about the story about you and your Apache friend had walked into the Seaman Center, which was at the time run by Parnell Necklace. Tell me that story and your encounter with Kay Jimerson there.
I had a Apache friend who's, he's federally recognized Apache.
Is he Mescalero or what band of Apache?
He's Mescalero.
Mescalero.
He's Mescalero Apache. He is a well-renowned pipe maker, and he's done it for all tribes, including the Sioux. If you've ever watched the movie Thunderheart, Chief Ted Thinnell that plays on the movie, his name was Chief Ted Thinnell. He repaired his pipe, and he made the pipe for that movie for Chief Ted Thinnell. And he's done it, he was, as a young age, he was told that he met with a lot of nations, and he was to do that for the people. He's done it for every tribe across the United States. There is I always call it the so-called center. It's located here in Adams County, 22-minute drive from West Union to Seaman, where I live. He wanted to go over to the center to see, and I told him, I said, I call it the idiot center. I said, but yeah, let's, if you want to go, I'll be glad to take you. We came into the center, and Tom, which is supposed to be Ace's cousin. First he said it's Ace's nephew, then he said he's his cousin. So, but try to make it as short as possible. He took a very all nations pipe over that he made, and just absolutely a beautiful piece of work, spiritually work. They sat there because they come in and they
like a lot of them. But they basically, said, well, you could go to prison for this. For, faking Native American arts and crafts pieces. And he said, I am federally recognized. So, he even pulled his, she said, we'd like to see your tribal card, your so-called card. So he pulled it. They started taking it. He said, no, it's because of people like you that we have to have these cards from each tribe. And it's like Lewis, my close friend here, carries one. He said, but, I'll let you read it. I'll hold it up and let you read it. Well, if you won't let me touch it, then your pipe is fake and so are you. He said, well, no, it's right there in front of you. Just read it. There it is. It was because that it was basically, and Kay Jimerson was sitting there. She now has moved herself into the Indian Center chairperson, but a board member.
So she's a board member. She's a board member of which Indian Center?
The Seaman Indian Center.
So that still exists.
Well, yes. 4 is on paper, I guess.
Okay.
But the person who is the chair of that little Indian Center, so-called, and it's just a crap. All it is a junk store, and they're sitting there setting something up for their own self, and they have to have a federally recognized entity be on the chair, and that person is Purnell Necklace. But Purnell does not know what is going on in his own center. That's already been proven to me. We had 4 years ago. We had a meeting with the state agencies up in Columbus, and Kay Jimerson come in and said, I'm representing the Seaman Indian Center, and we're totally against anything to do, with the state tribes or having any type of commission or anything. Now, I discussed that very thing with Purnell Necklace, who is the chair for the Seaman Indian Center, and he never sanctioned any such letter or any such thing. I said, well, she's up to old things. I said, you don't know what's going on in your own center? I said, Purnell, are you against any type of commission for Indian people? Well, absolutely not. The state needs one. I said, then why did you send a person from your center to talk against it? He said, he had no awareness of the letter. And I've come to understand the last 4 years, that he basically doesn't know what's going on in his own center.
Now you were telling me before that when he found out that she had used the center's letterhead in that situation, that he suspended her or fired her or something, right?
No, that was where she worked for the state agency.
Okay, that was on the state agency level.
Apparently she's still there.
Now,
he didn't have anything to do with it. But, I think, he's basically a figurehead there. And Tom and his wife and Kay Jimerson basically, do their own dirtiness, their own dirty work.
What's Tom's last name?
I don't know at the time. I got it somewhere, but
he's not a Welsh, is he? Because the Welshes run the
That's Harold Welch. No, he's no related to them.
Okay.
He claims to be Asa Supremo's
Yeah, Mark Welsh is supposed to be the cousin of Asa Primo, or he's related to the Primo family. And I think you were telling me that Parnell Necklace was a cousin of Asa's, right?
No, he is actually Purnell Necklace is actually Asa Supremo's nephew.
And Asa, when Asa Primo died, Asa Primo was Lakota, and he was a Lakota medicine man representative for Sampone Nation of Ohio, or he was doing ceremonies, helping our tribe with ceremonies. And when Asa died, it's my understanding that Parnell Necklace kind of filled in that place that Asa was doing for our tribe. Is that true?
Well, not on an official basis, no. Some of our people went to them to do, but then, look, he was charging. You don't charge to do ceremonies.
Oh, so
yeah.
Parnell Necklace was charging for ceremonies.
Well, it told him it was going to cost him so much. And as a matter of fact, it was Vicki Hayescock, and she was, upset over it. But that's last I heard. And I'm going to tell you, when Purnell come in to this area, he didn't know what rocks that you could use and what you couldn't use. I showed him where to get, because of Asa. I knew Asa. I showed him where to get willow for his lodge. I told him what rocks to use, because this is not their...
It's not South Dakota. It wasn't South Dakota, it was Ohio.
Exactly. So, but, and my understanding with him was he was going to do ceremony have a lodge for his family. And that he needed, of course, that's a great thing. But that's okay. I done it. Basically, when I first went over to the center when it opened, I walked around, and and Tom I'm Asa's nephew. And I said, well, I knew Asa. They had pictures of Asa I'm his nephew. And after the second visit, I told him, I said, no, you're not Asa's nephew. I said, Purnell. I told him at times, I said, no, you're not Asa's nephew. I said, Purnell Necklace is Asa's nephew. Now he claims to be Asa's cousin. But it's just a little thrift shop, and it's it's nothing. It's there to get funds. They have to line their own pockets, and that's what Tom Nit's doing. It's just a
yeah, that's not the same as Tom Nit's, is it? That's a different one.
Without getting in my paperwork, I got it wrote down there somewhere, but it was a atrocity. If you don't, it's about their own lining their own pockets. They use Purnell to have the head person, because they have to have, to try to get the grants and the stuff that they do to try to get money for the, they have a food pantry that's, it was a joke. I brought stuff to the food pantry when it first opened, and it was basically going into their own families. They wasn't distributing it to the Indian people in Adams County. Look, there's 238 reported Native Americans on the census, and they wasn't receiving any of that. So I quit giving to the food pantry. It was a joke.
Yeah, it'd be like someone at the United Way pocketing all the donations that people sent in, putting it in their own personal bank account.
Yeah, they wasn't distributing.
It'd be the same
because,
thing.
there were some Indian people who were in need that went and then wouldn't receive anything.
Yeah.
And knowing that they had, because I donated stuff personally, and that's why I call it. It's not an Indian center; it's an idiot center.
So, what can you relate the story about Guy Jones taking a group of AIM activists to the medical panel on minority health that Maria Robbins was involved with? Can you tell that story?
And I'll stress this: there wasn't any. They say AIM, but I have not met an AIM that in these meetings to come up and say I'm an AIM member of the AIM chapter. Okay, it's basically the people that Guy Jones brings in from the Indians, because he had his hands in all the powwows. So he have the same dancers and that's usually the same handful of people that come. Now, Maria Robinson is an enrolled member of the Nation. Been there for many, many years. She was on the board for minority health. And pressed by Maria, she wanted to see more things also towards the Indian community, the Indian people in the state. Now, Guy thought that there was going to be some money there. And that was the whole thing. So he takes him and his handful of Indian people out of the center, comes into a meeting, and basically attacks Maria. And, we don't recognize this person. We don't, if you don't recognize, we don't recognize you. She's not representing us. And basically, called her a black woman. And if you ever see Maria, she's not a black woman. And it was basically because they did. There you go. It's basically about the money with those people. They thought they were seeing an opportunity to receive funds. And it's that's the type of people they are. And basically, that setback against the Indian people in the state, there's from the mental health department. That basically, she was appointed by the governor's office to set on minority health. So it was, it's kind of, that's the kind of tactic, and they've done it for years. Now, even after, he said, after the damage, I didn't mean it that way. But that's, some of it. That's the tactic. That's the stuff that they've done for many, many, many years, and they continue.
Now, the story that I remember Maria telling me is that she was appointed by the governor's office to the panel, and they started the meeting, and almost as soon as they had started the meeting, Guy Jones and the guys that came with him, who reportedly were supposed to be members of AIM, began to shout and protest, and the chairman asked Guy Jones, well, what problem do you guys have with this committee? And they said that there was no Indian representation on that committee, and the committee chairman said, well, Maria Robbins is a Saponi Indian, and Guy Jones said, she's not an Indian, she doesn't represent us, and we don't recognize the Saponi. That's what Maria Robbins had told me.
Yeah, and
then,
yes, absolutely.
And then Maria Robbins went to a convention. Do you remember the name of this convention or gathering that she went to where they were talking about this incident? And it wasn't in Ohio. I think it was in Tennessee, like Nashville maybe.
No, I think that was one in Michigan.
Michigan, okay.
That was the one in Michigan, and those very same people that she was setting, that was the funniest thing. She was sitting at the table with other people at this Indian health workshop, and they were talking about the non-representative woman who this so-called this black woman who said that the state had put there to represent the Indian people, and they had no. And Maria asked him, and so do you know this woman? Well, they said, Guy Jones and Kenny Irwin, and she said, I'm that person that you calling black. She said, I'm Saponi Indian, and I'm the person. You can't be the person that they're talking about. And it was no. I'm assure you that I'm the person that they're talking about, and I assure you that I'm Saponi Indian. I'm not. She said, well, absolutely, and we apologize. We did not know that was you that was sitting on the board, and I don't know what the. And the senses of the whole entire table was, this wasn't attack about no representation. It was a personally attack because that's not who they appointed or wanted to sit on the table on the representative.
They didn't have control, so they went in to attack the people that they didn't appoint on there.
If they can't have complete control over what is, even on a powwow committee, they take over. It's about control. Now, see, the Ohio Historical Society used to put on a powwow or a educational program, a Native American educational program. Now, I sat on that committee for several years, and we tried to promote more Eastern Indian people, like, the
people
senators.
who are more indigenous to the state.
Exactly. And they got upset immediately after about, 2 or 3 years that they could not do, couldn't completely, take over.
They wanted to dominate.
So they went to a Pam Harris, which is not the same Pam Harris that's enrolled with the nation. It's a Harris family, but they're not related. She was an African American who sat on the board. Okay, we always had representation on this educational program board. And we decided who was going to be, join the programs. And okay, so they pulled the same thing they did about the Indian Commission years ago. They said only the federally recognized Indians could have a vote. You can give your input. I received a letter from the Ohio Historical Society, President Pam Harris, that though our input was assured, we had no vote on the final say-so. So, I and another Saponi Indian, Sarah Snow, sat on the committee.
Indian people that was sitting on the committee for the educational program that the House Historical Society put in, made a gripe, said, they ought not be voting on anything, blah, 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 only federally recognized. So I told Mrs. Harris, I said, if you do not change this back, because it was equal and fair to all, I said, I will sue you for discrimination, because, you can be Indian and not be federally recognized. See, that's the most jocose thing there is. Federally recognition only means a government-to-government relationship with the tribe and the United States. You can be Indian and not be federally recognized. And at that meeting, proof was provided to her to show her. There was birth certificates, there were all kinds of things showed to her that you can be Native American and not be federally recognized. So to choose one set of Indian people over another is outright discrimination, and as an African American, understood that.
Right.
And I said, now you either change it back or you've got problems. She said, well, I can't change it. You're still going to have input. You're still going to be able to, but you just want, I said, no. Well, she said, well, I'll have to do away with the entire committee. I said, then, in order to do the right thing, either you do it right or get rid of it. We have to stand up for our people, and that's one of the times that we use their tactics, the same thing that they've done. You don't have them. Okay, if you don't equal, we've done this before. That's why we didn't have the Indian Commission. Okay, we won't have an Indian Commission if we do not have a voice and a note on what is to say with our people and what not. Then why should you have anything?
Exactly.
And that's exactly, and I told her, then you will cancel this. You will never, and if I hear that you've ever had another meeting, I said, your agency will be taken to court. I said, for it personally, because I sit on this meeting. I said, you're discriminating against me personally.
And it seems that a lot of these organizations, that's all that they tend to understand is a lawsuit. And I find it so disturbing that people are so ignorant out there about what an Indian is, who Indians are, and that there are Indian people out there who aren't federally recognized. For instance, the federal government, in their own literature about the Cherokees, for instance, lists out 4 categories of Cherokee. And the 4th category, Category 4, are all other Cherokees. There's no stipulation about an enrollment. There's no stipulation about an ancestor's enrollment. It just simply states all other Cherokee fall under Category 4. So that means that the Category 4 Cherokee person is not federally recognized. And for any state or any organization, for that matter, to base their decisions solely on the federal recognition of a particular Indian person is a form of discrimination. It's a part of the genocidal process that was started back in colonial times. It's simply carried forward into the present under the guise of paper genocide.
Exactly. And that's what they do. Look, there's several tribes who has obtained, it's up to that tribe to say whether I want a government-to-government relationship with the federal government of the United States. There's quite a few tribes that have, and there's some that don't. And example, the Mohegan, the Pequot. Look, wasn't those people Indian people before they got
federal recognition. Now all of a sudden they're Indian because they're federally recognized. No, they were Indian beforehand. Just like Pequot in Massachusetts. A lot of tribes. Just like, I tell people, look, some of the greatest people that in Indian history that lived was not federally recognized. And, so they say, what? Okay, Geronimo. As my pastor friend said, guess what? Geronimo had blue eyes. Also, Geronimo was not federally recognized. Wasn't he still Indian? Red Cloud. He wasn't a so-called federally recognized Indian. That he was federally recognized and handed the card by the federal government.
Right.
But wasn't he still? It wasn't the comfort. Wasn't he?
Right. That system didn't exist until 1933, whenever they passed the Indian Reorganization Act.
And if you look at the government, this is the government's definition of an Indian. It's the federal government's definition of an Indian. It is anyone who has not even, it doesn't even go by blood quantum or this stuff or that. If you descend from a Native American, by all means, you are a Native American. That is the government's definition of an Indian. That's what and the old record that says Indian. So that is the government's definition.
And of course, the government has, I think, upward of 20 or 30 different definitions for Indian tribe, and Native American. And depending on which department within the government will depend on the definition, and depending on which program within each department will also depend on which definition that they choose to use.
And you must remember, those agencies was not put there to help you. They were put there to abstain from doing, to give you a heart. It's not there to, the federal recognition process is there to hold you up. It ain't there to help you. They don't make the process easy. They make it harder, and they continue making it even harder. So, those things have been, and it's not there for that. Now, going back to the Cherokee, wasn't it President, Hoover? President Hoover just said that all Cherokees were federally recognized?
I don't remember.
So it's,
it's a struggle.
They were Indian before they were federally recognized, and we're Indian. Look, our history tells you, your blood tells you, we descended from great Saponi people. The Collinses did, the Bolings did, the Gibsons,
the Jeffries.
Look, the Jeffries. It's important, as my grandma, my great uncle would say, he was an old man when he passed away, never forget where you come from. You come from good, hard, tough Indian people. Don't ever forget. Yes, unfortunately we can't help who we fall in love with. He said, but never forget where you come from. Your people died so that you can live. So never forget that.
Now I want to go back to NACO for a moment, the center there in Columbus, and I want to talk about the Welsh family just a little bit. I was talking with Gerald Winston, who's a council member, and for Foundation of Ohio, and he was telling me that I think it was Mark Welsh, that he's related to the Primo family, and that at one point that the center, and it might have been John Welsh, I can't remember, but had given a letter to Saponi Nation of Ohio in support of our tribe, and this was several years ago.
Yeah, several years. Actually, it was Carol Welch's mother. I cannot think her name right off the top of my head. But yes, they gave a letter of support to the Saponi Nation. Probably, I would say, back in
the 1990s.
Yes, 93, maybe 94, somewhere around that. Yeah. Now Carol Welch's mother started the Columbus Indian Center, and then Carol Welch, when her mother passed away, took over the duties there.
And at some point between then and now, apparently, according to Gerald Winston, the NACO Center, their stance on state recognition has been that of neutrality. In other words, they're not going to speak against Saponi Nation of Ohio to get state recognition, but they're not going to help get state recognition. And I guess my question would be, how could anybody ride a fence and be neutral on this issue if an Indian Center is supposed to be about promoting Native American heritage, culture, and sustaining that heritage and culture? Then how could a center be neutral when it comes to state recognition that can help a tribe in that particular state? I guess I'm not really fully understanding the mentality of neutrality, because if you're neutral, basically you're saying you're neither for or against. But really, when we're dealing with the system that we deal with, where they want all the Indian people to be federally recognized, or at least state recognized, so that they can meet criteria number 1 of the federal recognition process, neutrality seems to actually be a negative thing, because it's like this saying, men and women become accomplices to those evils that they fail to oppose. So in being neutral, they're actually opposing the tribe's efforts to better themselves.
Exactly, and it's not neutrality. It's because, I'll give you what they do. If they help or lend support to the state tribe, then you have those outspoken people that attack them as well.
Like Guy Jones.
Like Guy Jones's faction, like Kenny Irwin. I'll give you an example, and Maria can tell you this herself. That, look, the Indian centers have helped some of our people, just like with death benefits, to help food. I'll give you an example. Lanny Santiago. Lanny is ahead of all 3 Indian centers. Okay, she's based in Cleveland. Now, just like she said it in her own words to Maria, Maria, I have to be quiet when I help the state tribe because they jump on me. The people, the chief refers to, they get on me. So, if I do something for the state tribe, they get on. And, it's not about helping, she said, their tribes, or the Sioux, or the other tribes that are here. And it's about helping themselves. And she said, look, I try to help everybody, including the state tribe. And she said, I get jumped on for it. it's not about neutrality. You got their own people jumps on them, so they, do that stuff. Those people that could cause them so-called problem. Look, Carol Welch. Anytime you're in Columbus, Carol Welch even come down here for Adams County's 2000 or 1999 or 98. Adams County had its 200 year. She even come down and invited the Indian people to the Indian Center and whatnot, which was a great thing for her to do. But I found that the neutrality is just as bad as so-called neutrality. It's refusing to help the state tribes and depress them. You're helping, and they're depressing them down and keeping them down.
The ones who are neutral are actually enabling the naysayers to continue doing what they do.
Exactly. It's almost, to me, not doing anything.
It's as bad as being against.
At least being against, because and it's an excuse. They use stuff like that as an excuse.
Well, the German citizens back during World War II, whenever World War II ended and the Nuremberg trials began on the Nazis, the German citizens said, well, we didn't know what was going on, but yet a bunch of the citizens could smell the burning bodies from the ovens where they were burning Jews, gypsies, and everyone else that they were putting in the camps. And so, in a sense, a lot of these German citizens were saying, they were neutral about all of this stuff going on, and trying to wash their hands of blame. And that sense of neutrality is not an excuse. A lot of these issues, there are no fences to ride. There is no neutrality. You're either for Indian people or you're against Indian people. And if you're against Indian people because they're not federally recognized, then people that are doing that are committing acts of further genocide upon Indian people. People who have been so mistreated and abused that they can't even claim their identity. Because as soon as a person who's not federally recognized opens their mouth and says that they're Indian, says that they're Saponi, says that they're Cherokee, says that they're whatever tribe that their family came from, well, then they get jumped on. They get called wannabes. They get called fake Indians, and we have all these attacks. And for any people or any sinners to say that they're neutral on this is just an absolute. It's a disgrace to the Indian community.
Exactly. Here's the we're the only race of people in the United States that has to prove who we are. And we have to, constantly, say, well, if you say you're Native American, you must be able to prove that you descend from them. And it's sad, but that's the case.
Now, you've mentioned Kenneth Irwin several times. Can you give me a little more background about Kenneth Irwin?
Kenny's been in here quite a while too himself, along with Guy Jones. They come from the same as he was kicked off the res once for actually he set the tribal office on fire.
Oh,
yeah. And he was kicked off of the reservation. That's when he first come on. But no, Kenny.
So is he Lakota?
Yeah.
It's interesting that Kenneth Irwin is Lakota, because as you may know, the Irwin family are part of the Saponi people. In fact, Chief Mahenut, that was the English name that he had. His last name was Irvin, or some people spelled it Irwin, some people spelled it Irvin. Harry Irvin, or Irwin, was Chief Mahenut, and he was the chief that they hung in Virginia, involving the death of a couple of Nottoway warriors, and
yeah, I don't know his, I don't know his history for his background, his people, but his family, but, he came in the same way, and basically got involved, with the state to say that I am he's got himself, which is a sad, sad thing. He's one of the two people in the state that can receive a formal state representative stood up at a meeting and said that Kenny Irwin was the only Indian person who could receive Native American burials for Ohio.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you. Can you say that again?
There were some state representatives, a formal state representative, but they wasn't representatives at the time. Basically stood up in some state meetings and said that Kenny Irwin was the only designated person who could receive Native American bodies, like from construction companies. Here, because there's not a federally recognized tribe when it comes to NAFTA.
The NAGPRA, you mean?
Yeah, NAGPRA, the Native American Repatriation Act. And they're saying that no one has a direct link, which is a lie, to the older bodies here, which the Saponi, the Tulo.
Yeah, our people do.
Our people do. But you have to be able to prove culture affiliation. And, those are lies that they tell. And I said, no, that's not, that's a mistruth.
So they can rob the graves of our ancestors.
Yeah. That's a mistruth that Kenny Irwin is the only person that can be designated. And that's not true. The Native American Alliance has put and repatriated our people here and put them back into Ohio ground.
Isn't it funny how there are several Lakota people that have called archaeologists grave robbers, and yet here's a Lakota, this Kenneth Irwin, who is robbing graves in Ohio and taking bodies out of the state to rebury somewhere else that they don't belong.
And taking kickbacks from construction companies, money from construction companies to get rid of it for them. That way they can continue on with construction. And that's a sad, sad thing. And they've been doing it for years.
Blood money.
Yeah, exactly. And so finally, there's a lot of states out of this building, because he was actually taken back to South Dakota and there.
That's just outrageous.
Oh yeah, some of the stuff they have done is just, again, I stress it, they're not here to help the Indian people. They're here to help themselves.
And they'll desecrate the graves of our ancestors to do it.
It's been proved over and over again that those people are not be cut. They're not here to help. They're here to help themselves and to mind their own pockets. They talk all togetherness, to work together, but no, they want a faction where they tell everybody what they're to do and how they're to do it. And if you ain't with them, then you're a non-Indian.
It's their way or the highway.
Exactly. And then when you stand up for what you believe in, you are attacked. Well, I've been attacked over the years, and I'll continue standing up. Oliver Collins attacked over the years. like Maria Robbins, Barbara Crandall, old Jim Perry, who's no longer with us. If you stand up, and there's a lot of times these people, I have a lot of respect for what I'm saying, because a lot of times they would stand up when no one else would.
I can barely hear you.
I've got a lot of respect for, let me see if I can't turn my phone on. I've got a lot of respect for Oliver Collins, Barbara Crandall, Maria Robbins, old Jim Perry. Some of the old warriors are not with us no more. Because here's the thing, they would stand up when no one else would. Because of, and they've talked personal attacks and death threats for many, many years.
Now, I guess the only person that you mentioned that I've had a problem with in the past is Barbara Crandall, and not on a personal level, but just in the fact that she was one of the key players in the last bit of legislation that they tried to put through that was going to grandfather in the remnant band Shawnee and make it near impossible for any other Indians to be state recognized. I had a problem with that.
Yeah, and I had a terrible problem with it too. And as I explained to her, as they were trying to put this, I said, this will not work. But I said, you know this will not work. And I said, the Saponi people, I said, I'm a council member for the Saponi Nation. I've discussed this with council. I've discussed it with our people. And the Saponi people will not support this because it's not a bill for the state tribes. It's a bill for a Jew.
It wasn't inclusive.
And then recognize individual people, not the state tribes. The only one that would get state recognition would be
the URB.
The grandfather then. She wanted to recognize individual. And I said, we can't do that. And I said, we have fought with the state for many, many years. And I've said this to a point. This state will not do anything until you force them to do it. And we have proven that over the last 25 or 30 years that the state makes up excuses not to do things. That's why we're starting to take some legal action towards the state, because in order to force the state to sit down and to go over the issues that is concerning our people and other tribes.
And where is AIM and Aquasme in their support for what the Indian people in the state of Ohio have tried to do for all these years? Where is their support for state recognition? Because I understand that there are. I've talked to off and on with several Lakota people, and I have respect for the Lakota people. We have family amongst the Lakota. I mean, I have a cousin who she's Lakota. I mean, I'm not talking about just Donna Tower. Donna Tower is hooking to the Bluebird family, but I'm talking about I've got a cousin who's blood relative of Lakota. She's actually Lakota, and namely the ones that I'm related to, they totally understand where I'm coming from and where you're coming from. But the other Lakota people who live in different parts of the country, they're talking about burning their federal cards and they don't need government recognition and blah blah blah. But the problem for our people is that we're a first contact nation. the federal government already has done so much to our people. They relabeled our race. They have tried for generations to wipe us out through paperwork by saying we're not Indian. And so it's hard to get them to understand that if they give up their federal recognition, if they burn their cards, basically they're going to put themselves in the same position that we are, and that's a powerless position, because unless the federal government recognizes you as being Native American, you're not going to get the treaty rights that our ancestors deserve. Our ancestors signed treaties, and regardless of which government they signed them with after the American Revolution, the United States federal government became responsible for fulfilling those treaty rights. And if you burn your federal card and you say you don't want federal recognition, basically you're saying that you're willing to give up your identity in this country as a Native American. And I know it'll raise a lot of eyebrows and people will get angry about it, but you know what? They can get angry because our people have suffered a lot. I mean, we lost our reservation in the 1700s. A lot of these Indian folk, they have their reservation. They have their Indian programs. They get, college tuition and things like that paid for. They have the opportunity to open up their casinos and bingo halls and generate revenue for their tribe. And if their tribal council is not correct, well then that's, usually goes to the Indian people themselves. Or it's supposed to. But our people, we don't have any of that. People in Highland County, Ohio, for instance, in the Carmel community, they don't have any funds or any kind of help from the state government or the federal government. And people live out there in tar paper shacks just like they do out at Greasy Rock in Sneedville, Tennessee, or just like they do out in the Ozarks in Missouri and Arkansas. Or anywhere in the Appalachians that our people or other Indian people may live. And where's Quasne? Where is AIM? If they're supposed to be all about Native American Indians and trying to help Native Americans, and they're supposed to be out there fighting for Native American rights, then where are they in our communities? Because I haven't seen them. I've tried contacting AIM on several different occasions. I've sent letters, I've sent emails, and I've made phone calls, and no one that's involved with the Quasne or AIM have ever gotten in contact with me back. I've talked to people that say that they're friends with folks involved with AIM, but I've never been able to talk to these folks that are supposed to be involved. And of course, if you're not brown, if you're not dark and brown, well then you're not to some of these folks, you're not a real Indian. You got to have long black hair and be brown. Well, you know what? Most of us Collinses and Bolings and Saponi people, and even a lot of the Iroquois people, we're not dark all year round. We only get dark whenever the spring and summertime get here.
And we're copper color.
Yeah, we're lighter anyway.
We do not look like the Western people. Our people were of a copper color.
A lot of our people were mixed early on, so some of us even look African American.
Well, here's the point, and that's it. And I've said this many times. Look, our people, first contact, we've had over 500 years of contact. Okay. Now, the Sioux has only had what? 250 years?
Yeah.
300? Okay. Sioux out there, as you know, it's Sioux out there. Okay, now add 200 years to those people. And then come back and show me what they look like.
Mm-hmm. I saw a documentary with the descendants of Sitting Bull, and they were looking pretty white. They were looking pretty pale. They even had one of the great-great-grandchildren there, and he had white hair. He was a towhead. So, as far as the looks thing go, people are really going to have to get over that aspect of it, because not all Indian people look the same. And
Exactly.
and the problem with the federal recognition issue is that those people who have federal recognition, they don't have to wake up every day and deal with the same issues that non-federally recognized Indians have to deal with, because we don't have the programs, we don't have the access that they do, and we're open to attack by federally recognized Indians and non-Indians saying that we're not Indian and we shouldn't say that we are. And they don't have to deal with that. They don't have to deal with that issue.
And going back, no, they don't have to deal with what we have to deal with. And going back, no, we don't look like Indian people. Don't look the Apache don't look like the Sioux, and the Cheyenne don't look like the Navajo. Our people, if you look at the old painted pictures of their early times, we don't look like the Western people. Yes, they don't have to get up and deal. Do they deal with a lot on their reservation where they live? Yes, but
sure.
So do we.
And we deal with the same issues that they deal with, but we don't have programs helping us.
Yes, we don't have any help. We have no help.
You hear about these well-variety programs, and you hear about all these other different programs that have been set up for federally recognized Indians, but the rest of us Indian folks out here who don't have the blessing of having federal recognition, there's not any programs out there for us. Yes, there are grants that nonprofits can get, or a student who's studying Native American studies or something, they can get grants or what have you for something like that.
If you're state recognized, you can do and get state funding.
Right, but beyond that, as far as help with getting food or medical care or most educational opportunities, that's not open. Those things we have no access to. We have to deal with our alcohol and drug problems and poverty issues on our own. We don't have the luxury of going to a large, a tribal council that has access to, millions and even in some cases billions of dollars that are given to them by the federal government. We don't have access to that, and in a lot of cases, different tribal communities have gotten state recognition and then had some federal tribe come in, interfere, and have their state recognition pulled from them after years and years of hard work trying to prove who they are to the state that they reside in. It's an atrocity, and it's a part of the genocidal process. And I wished that groups like AIM and Aquasne would wake up to these atrocities and would start fighting these battles, because when it comes down to it, what really does a sports mascot, how does that really, is that going to prevent someone from having a meal on their table? Is a sports mascot going to prevent someone from getting basic health care so that a lung infection doesn't turn into a death sentence? Is a sports team mascot going to magically build a person who lives in the Appalachians or the Ozarks, rebuild their tar paper covered house into something that's actually suitable to live in? I don't think so. So I will continue to ask the question: where is AIM? Where is Aquasne? Where is the Native American the Congress of Native Americans? Where are all these organizations, and how come they're not actually helping Indian people who need help?
And the point being is, I went back, AIM is not like it once was. It's not like it once was. Used to, when it first started, it was there to help people. And as another tool of when something was not right, you protested, you stood up for what you believed in, and now it's basically
it's a money-making type of
it's
thing.
a money-making organization. They receive funding, outside funding,
Donations and whatnot.
and they just want to get in front of the camera. And look, I've met a couple when the school down here hit raid. Okay, none of them. We knew as local Indian people, we knew that there was raid there, and we griped and protested it. We griped with the school board. I and other Native Americans in my county and other surrounding county, Oliver. But guess what? As soon as the cameras show up, after trying to talk to Amy and trying to get him down there, all the camera shows up. Now we want to show up. And it's a shame. We could have stopped it with their help and moved the school back, 100 yards. But no, that's, they're not, AIM is not what it once was. It's become a stagnant organization who basically want to protest.
It's kind of like the ACLU. Everybody has this idea that the ACLU is going to help you if you get into trouble, if your rights are violated, but that's not the way it works. If the ACLU can't make money off of a trial, or they don't think that they're going to be overly successful, they don't care what you're going through.
That's just like the Civil Rights Commission. They're supposed to be set up to protect your civil rights. Okay, and there's been complaints made to the Civil Rights Commission here in the state of Ohio that will not take up towards Indian people, especially the state government. They basically said if this ain't about a job or connected to a job, or if you ain't been discriminated against by the police department or something, we do not handle that. And the reason why, they're not going to buck the state. The Civil Rights Commission is not going to go against the state of Ohio. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they receive a budget. They receive monies from the state, and they're not going to help the Indian people against the state of Ohio. It's been a proven fact. So we have to go outside. We have to go. We have to go to the federal government side to get them to get on, the state for atrocities, and that's what we're doing now. And something has to be done. This state cannot continue to mistreat our people, and oppress them, not make us part of the process, and constantly doing things. And there has to be a reckoning. Until you force the state, and that's why we're doing the things that we're doing now, force the state that you cannot overlook state tribes. You cannot overlook the phony people. You just can't completely suppress us and continue not letting us be part of the process. And look, they know we've been here. Look, they've given us documentation from the legislative branch, the House, the Senate, that says we've been here more than 325 years. But then, say on the other hand, you can't be part of the process. And it's an atrocity they continue with because, sometimes things come about in their own time. I guess this was the right time because
I can't hardly hear you.
we have proof of the atrocities, and sometimes things happen when they're supposed to. And so, we
documentation of the atrocities, the discrimination, of not letting us be a part of the process, the housing, the Native American mental health. We must take a stand. And sometimes when you step on toes, you get, that's what a lot of times they don't. We've been depressed so bad here, and the people have in the state, of the state tribes, that they're basically are afraid, to say anything. So,
of course, because as soon as you say something, then you're labeled a wannabe or a fraud.
And then
so why say something, right?
And then, because you're
a troublemaker. If you open your mouth, if you open your mouth about the atrocities that are taking place, you're a troublemaker, a fraud, a fake, a phony, someone who's just crazy. It's amazing the excuses that are thrown out to disregard, not just the Indian community, but the poverty-stricken community in general. But the Indian community seems to really get a lot of flack that other racial minorities don't seem to run into. If I wanted to run around saying I was African American, I would probably get some snickers still, but most African American people in this country are not about to say that I couldn't claim an African American heritage if I had it. They would be down with that, They would be cool with that, But if you say you're Indian, well then all hell breaks loose, and people want to disprove what you're saying. They just can't believe it.
And here's the difference between our time. I can't tell you the history of some of their heritage, individuals, but the Pony people, Pony Nation, people who are enrolled in this tribe, and prove that they descend from the Pony people.
Mm-hmm.
We have proof of heritage. We have proof of occupancy in this area. This is part of our homeland. We have proof of village sites.
The entire state of Ohio is Saponi, Tutela, Occaneechi, Massapalea homeland. And this is archaeologically proven. You're absolutely right.
And there's the point. We do scare people. We do scare the state government.
Of course.
We did not sign the removal treaty. Hey, I'm sorry. The Shawnee traded land from here to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
They even came back here and talked how it was so great out there to try to get other tribes to move out with them.
And the federal government never terminated the Saponi, Tutelo, Occaneechi, or any of our people. That we were never even mentioned. They wanted to forget us, and so they didn't mention us. And
yeah, just like in Ohio history, we fought that. There's been some battles that we've actually won. The Historical Society, the Ohio Preservation History Historical, they only want to talk about the so-called 5 tribes. And because those are the tribes that removed and signed removal treaties.
Mm-hmm.
But we proved to them and showed them that there were other tribes here who were smaller but didn't have tremendous a lot of military strength, but they were here historically, and they were here, and they're still here. So now, when you would, that other outside agencies or government agencies or, call and ask about the tribe. They'd only talk about
the 5 tribes that was here, the big 5, the Miami, the Shawnee, the Delaware, Seneca, and Wyandotte. That's all they wanted to talk about. Now they'll tell you, well, the Pony people, Pony tribe, well, yes, they were here. And that was because we actually proved, as we've always done, proved that, look, we were here.
We always have to prove ourselves. Wherever we go, whatever issue is being addressed, we always have to prove ourselves first before we can open our mouth, before we're taken seriously or addressed in any way. We have to have a trunk load of evidence to show everybody that we are who we say we are, and that's a travesty. That's a part of genocide. When you're made to constantly prove who you are, when we've already done that over and over and over and over again.
And we continue, and there has been some battles that we've won, and that's one of them. Because any state agency, immediately, if you say you're a tribe in Ohio, they call the historical society. They call the Historical Society of Ohio. And, so even your government offices, your government states, your representatives, your senators, but that was and we proven that. So that was a big step. And now when, anyone calls and they relay it over to them and they say, absolutely, the last meeting that we had with the governor's office, basically, we've been here. We showed occupancy. We showed that we had a village site. We showed that we didn't have, we never removed.
And more than one village site.
Yes, and more than one. And, now, we know that the Saponi people are here. We know that you're here. The Ohio Historical Society said you were here.
They admit it now.
Oh, yes, they admit it. And that's, and that's a great...
That's a big accomplishment.
That was a big accomplishment. Sometimes it's a hard way, but sometimes you do, we have had some victories. My grandpa used to say, sometimes you think the walk is really hard, and it's really trying, and you feel like you're just not getting anywhere. He said, stop, take a deep breath, and see where you're at. He said, just turn around and see where you were. Mm-hmm. You found that you've come a long way. No matter how hard it was, or how difficult, or the stuff that you've met on the way, you can always stop, turn around, and look where you were, and look where you're at. So, and there was a lot of truth in that. Sometimes we really think that we haven't done a lot. Then if you turn around and if you think about, some fights some things we won, some things is basically was, put on hold. We still bring it up. We haven't forgotten it. We still bring it up. And now we've went through every avenue. We've opened up every door. We've pounded on doors that wouldn't open. And somewhat means it's been better than it has been. But now it's time for us to really, I always said, force the state to sit down and really go over the issue.
Yeah.
Now here's what they're saying now. They always come up with something different. Yes, the Indian people, yes, the Saponi people were here. Yes, we have recognized them for being here more than 300 years. Yes, we recognize their representatives. But recognition means. If it's not put in writing, we don't have to follow it. So we have to, and that's an excuse. You know, just like when the Native American Arts and Crafts Board, Native American Arts, we could have been, we applied, we're recognized, yeah, the Saponi Nation is recognized in the state of Ohio, but it does not say what that recognition allows us until we force the state to sit down and go over these issues. And because, you know, the white man in these papers, he has to have paper. If it ain't on paper, then we don't have to go by it. So now you force the state to sit down and put some things on paper.
Yeah, it's such a shame. It's such a shame that our people can't even say that our arts and craft is Native American made because of this whole notion of federal recognition. Again, it's part of that genocidal process to suppress Indian people. And
exactly, and the state continues doing it. That's part of the proof. You know, we apply to the Arts, Craft, and Art. We'd love to help you. Yes, you are recognized, and that's in their letter. But they also, the Arts and Craft Board, sent me a letter from, you know, sent the Saponi Nation a letter of their response from the Attorney General's office on the response of us asking to be a part of the Arts and Crafts. Okay. You know, that's another thing of proof. We have those letters. You know, they said, yes, these people are Indian people. Yes, they are Saponi. And yes, you know, some of the names have changed, are called by different names, but this recognition is recognition. But to them, it's limited because it doesn't say what that recognition brings. And in the state, that's another way that shows discrimination against our people. And this has been going on for years. And that's why sometimes I think things do happen when it's supposed to. Because now we have all this documentation, all this proof of our atrocities and discrimination against our people. And now that's a lot of those, and some things was put into check. We have all kinds of, there was a packet put together and sent to the Civil Rights Commission in Washington, D.C. because this state, civil rights, is supposed to be here to protect our people, are part of the atrocity. That's part of that I sit on the fence and not do nothing why our people are mistreated and not, you know, we're not part of the mental health process. We're not part of the housing. We're not part of, you know, that's another part of, as you mentioned earlier, sitting on the fence doing nothing. And that's an excuse. And so now,
yeah, I mean,
part of the process, and to make the state sit down and say, yes, this recognition allows you this, our hunting and our fishing rights that are ours. It's, you know, without license and fees.
If a person were, let's say you were walking down the street and you saw, you know, a couple of ruffians, you know, beating up some old lady, you know, are you just going to sit there and watch it happen and let it happen in front of your eyes, or are you going to try to help that old lady get her out of harm's way? You know, people who sit on fences and claim neutrality are just like someone who would just sit there and watch an old lady get beat up in the street.
Yeah, you're helping them to be. You're not doing anything.
You're enabling.
Exactly.
You're enabling
you don't
that
even tell
activity.
the state. Okay, that's a fine example, Scott. Okay, you're not going to tell the local police department, which is a county state agency, that there's a poor lady over here getting beat to death. You know, but still, these people sit on the fence and don't say nothing and let our people get beat.
And yet they'll call out Mitake Oyesun, and it's like, and say that they know the real meaning of those words, but yet they'll sit there and let Indian people get beat up, get taken advantage of, or not have their rights. You know, it's crazy. I mean, in our language, Hukmiesa, you know what? That's straightforward. All my people. All my people.
All my relations.
Hukmiesa. And why is it that if these other folks want to always say the Lakota phrase, Mitake Oyesun, how come they're not walking them? How come they're not, there's no Moka Kasiyani, which in our language means walking the sacred road. That's not a if you're on the fence, if you're neutral about any of these issues regarding any Native people, then you're not walking a sacred way. You're not living up to the Hukmiesa or Mitake Oyesun. You're not living up to that concept of all my relatives, because if your relative, if your grandma was getting beat up in the street, I know you damn sure wouldn't stand by and let that happen. So if we are all related, then where are they? Where is their support? How come they're not going with us hand in hand to whatever state capitals or organizations that we have to go to and confront about these issues? How come they're not right there hand in hand with us, fighting, helping us to...
Well, they're trying to say that, the state tribes are taken away from them. We're not taken away. We're adding. We're actually helping the other Indian people. We're not taking anything from them.
And
we're adding.
Yes, and our people are always signing petitions and always making phone calls and sending letters. When it regards issues with federal tribes and issues that are going on reservations, our people are some of the very first people to help out. When people are asking to send truckloads of food and clothes and things like that to different reservations, our people are some of the very first people that give money that we don't even have. A lot of us can't even put food on our own table, but yet we'll send $25, $50, $100 to one of these organizations, or even to an individual that says that they're helping, and we have a big heart because we live Hukmiesa, we live that, we breathe that. That's our whole identity is based on our family. And so we understand, just like the Lakota up on Pine Ridge and Rosebud understand, the people that understand Mitake Oyesun and what that means and the deep meaning of it. We understand that. But it's like, we do, we go out and support these powwows, and we support, these protests that go on for Native American rights. We donate to NARF and all these other Indian organizations out there. But yet when it comes time to help us out in our times of need and on issues that are affecting us directly, we're the wannabes. We're the fakes and frauds. And I resent that. I resent them using us like that, because they're supposed to.
Going back to that point, remember,
they be our relatives.
Yeah, they use people, and when they're done with them, they disregard. They dismount, and when you ask them to help the state tribes, they cast them aside. And that's a shame. It's all about the people that are here, that are in this state, who are not indigenous to the state. They're not here to help. They are here to help themselves. And they talk like talks togetherness. Talks, let's work together. Talk, let's, we'll work together.
Let's have unity.
And they don't work together. They work for themselves.
Yeah. They want everyone to unify behind them so that they can take advantage of it. And so,
and for stuff for them, not for the tribes that's here in Ohio.
Exactly. The indigenous people, our people, we talk about Ohio a lot, but I want to let people know out there that our people were not just in Ohio. Our homeland, what we called our homeland, extended all the way from Ohio to the Piedmont of Virginia and North Carolina. That entire area is our homeland. The Piedmont area was simply our front yard. Ohio was our backyard.
Exactly, and that's most people don't understand that the status called the Ohio was once the Virginia military district.
Right. It was part of Virginia.
Part of Virginia, Kentucky, what is now West Virginia, North Carolina,
Tennessee.
This was our Tennessee. This was our people. This was our place. And we were here. When the Shawnee first come up from southern, they went to
Illinois,
down into
northern Ohio,
Tennessee, and when they were there at the corner of Tennessee and Cumberland, Kentucky, well, they got run out by the Cherokees and the Choctaws and the Chickasaws
and the Tomahawkans and the Saponi,
exactly,
and the Uchis,
and they come up here and into Ohio, and we fought with them there. And the Shawnee said themselves, looking at the old village site, and said, well, who were those people? Well, they
told Daniel Boone that, the Cherokee and the Shawnee told Daniel Boone and others, they pointed out the Tutelo towns that were around there. And, people say a lot of times, oh, well, the Saponi moved off and they went this way, and they were shown here in the records, and what people aren't understanding is that we had villages and we rotated our villages. We went from one village, we stayed there for a few years. When the soil wasn't good to grow anymore, we moved to another old village site, and we had these migration cycles that we would go from these different old village sites to the next old village site, and all these village sites that are dispersed in Ohio and northeastern Kentucky and parts of West Virginia down the Kanawha River and into Virginia and all the way through North Carolina. Those village sites were used, and just because we weren't at any particular village site in a particular historic time period doesn't mean we gave up our territory. It just means that we weren't there because we were rotating our village sites,
And what did these other tribes say? They were here first.
No, and they weren't. The Shawnee didn't even enter Ohio until 1674.
But even the Shawnee say that the Saponi and Tulo people were here.
Exactly. And the mounds that are there, the mounds that are in Ohio, the mounds that are in Virginia and North Carolina, those mounds are attributed to our people. And I know that there's controversy. Some people say the Siouan tribes are responsible for the mounds in Ohio. Some people say the Shawnee. Some people say, that they don't know. But archaeologists have found and have been finding for a long time that a lot of the structures that are involved with the Fort Ancient sites are Siouan in derivation. And all Siouan tribes came from the Ohio area. They were all there in Ohio at one point.
And it's been a known fact that we are part of the Knoll people. And the Knoll people are,
Indian Knoll culture.
Yeah, the Indian Knoll culture, and then, progressed into, the mound builders.
Adena and Hopewell
Hopewell. They were always the same people we developed. Why is it that they all want to go by the Darwin theory, but then when it comes to Indian people, we progress throughout time from the Indian Knoll people to the, to right on up to the mound builders, the Hopewell, the Athena, the Fort Ancient people.
Right.
Okay, we evolved. We're not stupid people. So
we have such a rich history and a heritage, and yet it's constantly discounted as being flights of fancy and that we're making stuff up. And you can't make this stuff up. It's impossible. I would say that the best science fiction writers could not make up the true, real story of what has happened to our people, who our people are, and where we are today. I don't think anybody can make up any of these things because there's too much complexity involved in who we are and how we arrived at where we are today. For someone to say that we're fakes or frauds is absolutely outrageous. It's genocide denial on a grand scale, and it's the same thing as the genocide deniers, the Holocaust deniers that say that the Jewish Gypsy Holocaust didn't happen in Europe. Well, it did happen, and the Holocaust that happened here, it happened, and it happened to our people. Our people were the first people that met the Europeans when they came, and it's been nothing but a suffering ever since. We assimilated. We accepted Christianity. We accepted the education that they were bringing with them. We accepted their agricultural ways. We accepted their clothes and their trinkets and this, that, and the other. And these things did better our lives. I mean, they did to a great degree. That made things easier in some aspects. But there was so many promises that if you do all this, you'll be treated like a white man. And that never happened. Even whenever the Indian people were marrying the white people, and they were assimilated, our people were still not treated like decent human beings should be treated. We were always run off. We were always overcharged, overtaxed, our identity taken away and relabeled. At one point, being an Indian, according to colonial philosophies, had to do with whether or not you were a Christian. Well, we accepted those Christian ways, and I guess as soon as we accepted those Christian ways and some of the other assimilation, well then, according to them, we weren't Indians anymore. So they relabeled us free persons of color or whatever other category that they chose to make up.
Mulatto.
We never gave up our Indian identity. We never gave that up, and they never let us forget. Because they always treated us badly, and they're still doing it today, and they've gotten other Indians to join in on it. It's outrageous.
Exactly. Indian people know who we are and who we are. Why is it now only the federal government can say Indian? It's ridiculous. We're the only ones who can say Indian. But that's just the way of it, and we fight with it every day. And more we do than the others, because
we don't have access like they do.
No.
We don't have the same access that federally recognized Indians have, and I'm hoping and praying at some point that by doing interviews like this and plodding on, trying to get the message out there about who we are and what we go through, I'm really hoping that people will begin to see, hear, and understand that the issues that they talk about in the media don't just happen to them. They're happening to other people who have less access than maybe they do. And, there are so many issues that crop up with our identity and trying to preserve our identity. I mean, we have different Saponi communities throughout the United States, and all too often, a lot of the bickering and fighting and backstabbing that goes on is because of this recognition process. Different people in different parts of the country want to say that they're more Indian than some other family of Indians or whatever, and not only do we have to deal with that from federally recognized Indians, but we oftentimes have to deal with it from within as well. I mean,
yeah, exactly, and they do that, and just because you have these outside Indian people
that are influencing
them, convince our own people, that what we're doing is wrong.
The CNO, the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, they've been known to send infiltrators into groups and organizations and tribes to try to destroy them. They'll pay, I've heard that they'll pay people off to become informants for them, and they'll get involved in a tribe that's trying to seek recognition, and they'll feed all the information back to organizations like CNO and Cherokee Task Force and NAFPS, and then these people will take that information. They'll take that exactly, and they do this to destroy us. That's what they're doing. They're trying to kill our spirit. They're trying to completely and utterly destroy the memory of us, and that goes against the whole philosophy of Mitakio Yesa, or Hukmi Yesa, all my relations. We are all related. If we're all related and we're all connected, then why are they self-abasing the entire Native community by doing these tactics? That money comes and goes. It's not going to be around forever. You get money, you spend it, it's gone. The whole casino issue, that crap comes and goes. All of that stuff comes and goes. But we remain. We will always remain. We will always be here. There will always be part of us here. And, eventually at some point, I really hope that, if the regular folks can't get it through their head, that the medicine people will, and will start to stand up. And I know that I keep hearing that medicine people don't get involved in politics, but you know what? Gandhi was a spiritual man. He got involved in politics, and look what happened. He was able to free India from British control. Look at Martin Luther King Jr. He was a spiritual leader who got politically active, and he was able to help push the civil rights movement right through that helped all minority people. So I really believe that if the regular people can't stand up for their fellow brothers and sisters, then it comes upon the shoulders of medicine men and women to take the stand, to take that stand and say enough is enough. We're going to respect our brothers and sisters. We're going to support our brothers and sisters, even if they're flaky. Even if they're flaky, we're going to stand up and say, you know what, they have a right to be flaky if they want to. They're Indian people like us. They have a right to exist.
If you care about your people, and I've said this many times over, if you care about your tribe, you care about your people. You cannot sit by idly, whether you're a spiritual leader or not, or a spiritual person, sit back idly and not try to make a difference. Look, I hate politics.
Oh, I do too.
It is a necessary thing. you must, I just can't sit back idly and not do something to try to help our people. We have to do this. I don't think, but it's something that we have to do. Whether you're spiritual or not, whether you're a spiritual leader or not, they must take an active part. You must, look, and if you are spiritual, if you are really spiritual, you're a medicine person or what, how could you sit back and not take an active part? Because even politics needs spiritual. Even politics needs spiritual. Need to be so those spiritual people who are sitting back not taking part in the politics is wrong.
Yeah, it goes back to this whole notion of neutrality, trying to stay neutral about something because you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to raise your blood pressure. You don't want to get involved because it might actually mean that you have to put forth some effort, and it might even upset you to have to get involved in on that kind of a level. I mean, I had someone on Facebook trying to preach at me, telling me that it wasn't her battle to get involved, and it's like, it's all of our battle. It's not just my battle. A lot of times people who stand up and speak out get labeled as crazy or invalid or fake or whatever. And really the problem isn't that the person standing up and speaking out. The problem is that everyone else wants to sit back and shut up, and they don't want to say anything to help support. And even if they know that what someone's saying is true. And we've reached an age and time in our society. We cannot be silent. We cannot just sit on our rear ends and go to powwows and backbite and backstab and talk about who's got the worst looking regalia or the best looking regalia, and that's it. If that's all we've come down to, that we're just patting each other on the back or tearing each other down, then what's the whole point in life? We're supposed to be here to help one another. We're supposed to be here to enjoy this life, this creation that was given to us to enjoy. It's a gift. Life is a gift. But it becomes a curse whenever we have oppression placed over us, and when we have people trying to destroy our spirits and our souls and our very lives. And we have to take a stand at some point. There's got to be a line drawn at some point. And, men and women become accomplices to those evils that they fail to oppose. And that's such a simple, universal truth. And I really want people to understand the things that we've talked about today, and I want them to understand that we might be saying some harsh words, and we might be talking and naming people that have done bad things, but you know what? There's always reconciliation. People can always reconcile. If Guy Jones or Kenneth Irwin or Kay Jimerson, if they want to reconcile, if they want to apologize for any actions that they've done or things that they've said that have hurt the Saponi people, then all they need to do is pick up a phone. All they need to do is show up at a council meeting and apologize. And all of these bad things will be, we're forgiving people. We don't, we only hold grudges and people as enemies as long as they're acting in that way toward us. As soon as people change their ways and their mind and quit acting evil toward us, we are very forgiving of people, even the worst among them.
Even the worst, we're very forgiving. But people must stop thinking of themselves. Constantly, I'm always, what we do as council members and tribal members, what we do for the people. The people. Our people. I'm not, to do for our people, Well, I'm here for as long as the people want me to do. I do whatever I can for our tribe and our people. And to these people sit up and say, this is a bigger world than just me. This ain't about what I drive. This ain't about putting money in my pocket. This ain't about me. This is about we. Until they do this, until they take a deep look at themselves and say, I'm not in this. I'm in this to help. Because they're not here helping the Indian people. They're not at their tribe helping their tribe. They're here helping until they break down and have some kind of they call it spirituality, but and then if they were spiritual people, they wouldn't be doing the stuff that they're doing.
Right.
Yes, all things can be forgiven. I may not forget what you've done, but I can forgive you for it if you show me that you are willing to make amends. But I've seen them say, "Well, forgive me," and and then turn around
and do the same thing.
They want to gain your confidence to just to backstab and find out what's.
It hurts you all over again. Yeah.
It hurts you all over again. And here's the thing: when a snake bites you, when you go around that, you've already proved to me. I gave you an opportunity, and you bit me. I'm not going to let you bite me again. I'm not going, and you've proven, just like, look, Kay Emerson talks about that she has Saponi heritage. Okay, but on the other hand, because Rick and they would come, I asked, she come to one of our meetings. All said, well, I'm this, that, but she was there, and she proved to be there to just to disturb
people.
Trash her people, to be, and she was, you're not welcome. You've proved to us you're not for us. You're not here for the Indian community. You're here to provoke your own self-worth and to attack. And we don't need people like that.
And I was doing a Google search last Monday, Tuesday, and I came across a Facebook site called Real Indians NDN Real, or what is it? I wrote it down. Indians NDN Reality, and it's a Facebook group. And it's full of people who are part of, or supporters of, or collaborators of Task Force Cherokee, or Cherokee Task Force, whatever they're calling themselves. And they're directly linked with Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. And they go around questioning people's genealogy and their family history and putting people down, calling them wannabes and thin bloods. And guess who is a member of that page? Kay Emerson.
Well, absolutely. And that's what she does. They act like they want, especially they see people like Oliver Collins and myself. They've even come, well, Lewis, we can work with you. Let's work together. And I said, no, it's not work together. It's, it's work for you, what you want.
Right. We're not going to bow down to them. We're not going to bow down to them and do what they say we got to do.
Because I wouldn't bow down to them. You have Kay, it's made a personal vendetta against myself because she lost her job for misuse of
her authority.
Of her authority. And, she even gets up and say, well, I lost my job because I was an Indian activist. And I say, no, you lost your job because
because you misused.
Because she was irresponsible.
You're irresponsible. There's another phone call coming in, and that's what it is. Not that we have refused to work with other Indian people. They have refused to work with us.
To be real. To
be really sincere about working with the state tribes and the state Indian people. They're the ones that really have refused. All they want to do is push their own agendas, which is to line their own pockets. It's ridiculous. And they continue doing the stuff that they're doing. And so, they've proved to me in the past, over and over again, they are not to be trusted. They've proven themselves not to be trusted. And that's always, so once people prove this over and over again, the chances are gone. If they were really sincere, as we talked earlier, then there's a possibility. There's always a possibility. But they've been proven not to be truthful. They're really terrible people. And they've proved to be that way.
And I guess my final question to you would be, what do you think would motivate a member of our tribe in befriending people who have disrespected our elders and our medicine people? What do you think would be a motivating factor for one of our members to continue having a relationship, a friendship with people like that who are known to be enemies of the Saponi Nation of Ohio?
Oh, God.
Do you think that they're sincerely trying to bridge some sort of gap or problem, or do you? I want to believe the best about people. I always do, and that's one of my downfalls, is that I am too trusting of people at times, and what a lot of the things that I have experienced and found out over the years, as far as these native issues are concerned, is that it seems like there's always infiltrators that come into these groups, organizations, and tribes to, do whatever, to feed out information about the activities of a tribe or organization. For what end, though? I am confused about some of the people who are involved with Cage Emerson and Guy Jones, when they have been known by several members of our tribe to be detrimental to us.
And what they do is that, some people do not know them. So they tell them, if you're Indian, you need to be helping us. We're out here fighting against these wannabe Indians, this and that, and they mistruth, they manipulate people into helping them, and Kate has always had a sense of wanting to belong, and that is her way, she feels, of belonging to, look, yeah, she was in love with her husband, she left it, she wants to cling on to his way of life, and that is the way she feels like she has claimed to. And Dave Jefferson, I know he's a good guy, but but her, she, wants to cling to our way of life, but she don't, she does that want a sense of belonging. And all of our people have a sense of belonging. Sometimes they use that belonging, that need to be part of our people, and they use that against our people to say, look, because they've only had 250 years dealing, we look more Indian, you need to be with us,
And unfortunately, some of our people fall into that. But eventually, if you have any type of sense, you start seeing what they're about. And I always question. I've always got me in trouble. Somebody says something or does something. I look it over, I think about it, and I see them do the same thing. And I think, why is that? I always ask why, because you say so, and that's the thing. Because I always ask the word why. Why has it got to be this way? That don't seem right to me. But if you look in your heart, you can see. It will tell you. I've always had a feeling I was born with it.
I can barely hear you.
I've always had a sense. I was born with it. My mother had it. My grandparents had it. I could always. If you feel in your heart that something is not right, and because I'd always get a bad feeling. It's like I still have bad feelings when I know something bad's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
And when you know that, and if you listen to that, then you know something is not right. And I've never, as long as I've ever listened to that, I have never been failed to not feel. If I listen to that, mean I knew that something is just not right. And then you find out what those people are about.
Yeah, but time tells all. And I know that there's probably a lot of people out there that think that I'm a reactionary, or that I bring up stuff that causes controversy and things like that. But when I see and I hear things go on, and I can't be silent about it. I've got to investigate. I've got to find out more, because we've already got so much opposition. We've already got so much negativity aimed at us, that to have more just coming at us is almost more than I can bear. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there that feel that way too. And it's worse when it comes from within. When it comes from people from your own tribe and your own family, that's the worst hurt that you can have. And I'm hoping that the people that really need to listen to this will listen to it and understand that we're not trying to attack people. We're trying to get everyone to wake up to what they're doing, whatever actions that they're involved in, and understand that if they're hurting the Indian community, then they need to stop. They need to take note of what they're doing that's hurting people, and they need to make amends. If they really are about trying to unify Native Americans to help all Native Americans, then they need to understand that there's quite a few of us out here that have been hurt deeply by a lot of the things that have been said and actions that have been taken. And we are not, I know that I am not going to just sit idly by while people are calling our family members and myself even wannabes and frauds, because that's not what being Indian is about. We're not supposed to be the Inquisition. We're not supposed to be the oppressor. We're supposed to fight for our freedom. We're supposed to fight for our rights, and we're supposed to fight for the rights and freedom of other people, not just Native Americans, but other people too. But in the future, I really hope that people will understand that you can't help the establishment continue the genocidal policies that it has followed. we can't be like the Germans in Nazi Germany and say, oh, well, we didn't know what was going on, or we were too scared to do something. Well, then that makes them just as guilty as the people who did it. And I hope that people will hear this and understand what's said here, and that I hope that it helps people to understand, that it will educate people.
That's the key word, is hope.
Yes.
We must keep having hope. Hope that things will change. Try to change things and make it better. At least try. If you don't try, then, if you don't try, because the walk's hard, doesn't mean you don't keep walking. You have to try no matter what, instead of stopping and sitting down.
And if you don't try, then you're just as guilty as the perpetrators.
Absolutely. And then, like I said earlier, you may not feel like you're doing anything. You may not that you're trying, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. There is disgust. There is worry. There is, you just feel like, but as my grandfather said, just stop. Look around and then see where you're at, and then turn around and see where you came from. You'll see that you came a long way, a lot farther than what you think. Though it's a hard road, though it's a hard climb or a hard walk, you'll see. But if you sit there on the ground and just stop completely, you don't go nowhere, you don't do nothing, you're not anything. So it's hard. You must keep doing. So that's as a Stony people and a Stony tribe, we must keep going, no matter who stands and says things about our people or about attacking us personally. The point is, we know who we are. We know where we came from. We know where our tribe, our people. So we're there, and we're here, and we're still here. So that's what matters.
Well, I want to go ahead and end the interview, and it was really great. And thank you very much for doing it. Hang on just a second.